All right, thank you everybody for attending today's webinar. Today we're going to focus on using Salesforce and Tableau at a professional services organization. Today you're joined by myself. So my name is Scott Love. I'm the founder and CEO of Lovelytics. And we also have Chantilly Jaggernauth, who is the Vice President of Visualizations and Training here at Lovelytics. So just brief introduction to our organization. We're a Tableau and Salesforce consulting and training organization. So we help companies who have both or either of those tools with the implementation of that tool. We're headquartered in Arlington, Virginia, where both Chantilly and I are located. We also have satellite offices in Cleveland and Toronto. Key areas of expertise for us really are on the sales and service cloud implementations on the Salesforce side, and then more in the Tableau and data analytics standpoint with data integrations, environment creation, Tableau dashboard design and development, Tableau training, and also the infrastructure and server elements. So really for today's webinar, I think we wanted to showcase a bit of what we see both from internally running a professional services organization, but also with consulting with a large amount as well. And what we've seen is many professional services organizations have disparate Salesforce, Tableau, and other environments that they're pulling information out of, but really struggling to really bring that into some sort of consolidated environment where true reporting can be done. And based on our experience, we really wanted to go through an example today, talk about some of the common problems that we run into, how we fix this, and then Chantilly will walk through the demo that we've prepared. So to start, I think we wanted to highlight really three common problems that we run into. The main one is the siloed data. Siloed data meaning someone is going into Salesforce, they run a report in Salesforce, then maybe they go into their time tracking system, they run a report in the time tracking system, then their project management system, and so on. The biggest problem with that is that it's very time consuming, and it creates a second problem that we've outlined here, which is that it creates manual reporting. Even if you're joining together a lot of different systems, so if you're putting together your Salesforce opportunities with your time tracking system, to be able to track opportunities versus how much work you've done on those projects. It can be very manual, and what we've seen is it's very time consuming for a lot of large organizations and small organizations for that matter. So really what this leads up to is a large manual process, oftentimes can be create errors within that reporting aspect. And then it leads to the third problem that we list, which is really lack of insights. I think for a lot of companies, it becomes so time consuming that they're only able to get some major KPIs and not able to drill down and get timely insights, which is really the key of what we want to talk today of. How do we get all of these insights into Tableau and how do we pull it from a lot of different sources and create a automated or semi-automated process? So at a very high level, how we fix this is that we need to make sure we understand the data. We need to get a clear picture from a business perspective of where's this information coming from and how are we using that in our day-to-day. Once we understand that, that allows us to create those logic and joins inside of Tableau or inside of wherever we may be doing these data joins to develop a method for integrating those systems. This creates one single source of the truth and one single data source that can be used for reporting. Now, obviously, we want to automate that process. In certain situations, it is possible to automate, whether we're creating custom API connections, whether Tableau has native connections to that. We can figure out many different ways to go about that. But once we have that process automated, the joins are done, now we have a complete data source. We're really looking to visualize that in Tableau, which is what a lot of this webinar will focus on today. Once we're able to visualize that information, it really presents the information to the users in a very effective way. You can curate these visualizations so that individuals only see the information that they care about. We can make sure that it's shared at a cadence that allows people to really get access to more timely reporting. A lot of different options that we have. And that leads to the share aspect, which is where we can use Tableau Server, Tableau Online. We can embed these into Salesforce to be able to show exactly what's going on from a Tableau dashboard perspective inside of the Salesforce environment. And lastly, I think getting that feedback from the users, gaining the feedback, being able to continually improve what you're doing on a day-to-day basis and improving the insights that the individual users want to see. So for today, we're going to highlight just three systems. We wanted to keep the example fairly basic because what we can do is replicate this same idea with 4, 5, 6, 7 different systems. Obviously, there's some added complexity into that. But the three major ones we wanted to highlight today was Salesforce and primarily Sales Cloud, Tableau, which I think everyone is familiar with at this point, and tracking time. Tracking time is what we use internally I know there's a lot of other time tracking systems out there. The process, based on our experience, is generally the same between almost all of them. What we've done is we've created an automated API connection to pull in our real data. In this situation, what you'll see Chantilly demo today, we did just use an Excel extract because we don't have a API connection for the fake data that we've created. But we can walk through that process of how it works to completely automate this. So before I turn it over to Chantilly, just wanted to talk through a couple of the goals for today's demo. What we were looking to do was to automate a flow to combine data from multiple systems, which are the three I just showed you, the two I just showed you, into a single Tableau data source. And then allow for reporting on sales and marketing opportunities from Salesforce, and also track the consultant time entry to be able to tie that into one single Tableau interface. And then we want to share that with the end users. So what you'll see in the demo today at a high level is that we have a Tableau prep workflow. For those who are not familiar with Tableau prep, what Tableau prep does is it allows you to pull information into the Tableau prep environment, and then it creates a workflow. So for example, if we want to say, okay, we have the opportunity ID in Salesforce, and then we also have a project ID within tracking time, and we want to join those together and create one single data source. We can do that within Tableau Prep and create a workflow that can be reused. So if the data is updated, it automatically runs through that flow, and it will also spit out a data source that we can use then to put right into Tableau. We can automatically upload it to server using their data management add-on. There's a lot of different things that we can do in regards to automating the flow of data. And more importantly, it also allows us to clean the data. If, for example, we, in certain instances of opportunities, maybe we have abbreviated the state, and other opportunities we have spelled it out completely, we can clean that up so that it's very easy to analyze within Tableau. And again, most importantly, completely automated. So we created 3 dashboards that are all within the same view, and we'll show you what those look like here in a second. The first one is a sales dashboard. So what we wanted to do here was display key sales KPIs, for example, close won revenue, total pipeline, and others. We wanted to visualize the sales funnel, which the idea being of whatever stages you've set up in your Sales Cloud, being able to show where the most opportunities lie and where that revenue is and what is likely to close and what is not. And then more importantly, we really wanted to be able to understand the sales team and those individuals who are on the team's performance, and being able to compare that to different quotas that have been set. The second one is a time tracking dashboard. So now that the deals have been closed, how do we go about looking at our consultants' time? Now that we've sold a deal for $10,000, we want to know, hey, how much work have we done on this project? Have we done 7,000? Have we completed the entire project? Who has worked on it, etc. So what we also want to show is the productivity of those consultants. Maybe you have an individual consultant who's working on 2 or 3 projects. Get an idea of who has availability, who does not. We also want to highlight those highest revenue projects, being that those are the most important. Maybe we need to have our project managers or our sales team follow up with them. And lastly, just determining the usage and availability of both the teams and individual consultants. The last one that we'll show today is a marketing dashboard. So we also wanted to go into the idea of where are these opportunities coming from? Which business units are we specifically attracting? Maybe we can target our market either to the ones that we're doing well in or the ones that we need improvement in. How fast is that sales cycle from having one of the individuals reach out to one of our marketing touch points? In our example, we use a webinar, to actually closing the business. And then lastly, how are we trending with our client conversion rate? This will allow us to quickly see if certain types of webinars are landing, if we've improved based on certain feedback that we've gotten, and it really is able to show you a long-term trend of what's happening in the market for us. So in saying that, I'm going to turn it over to Chantilly, and she can walk through a demo where she'll show the Tableau prep workflow and also the 3 dashboards that she's created. And then we can go into some Q&A after this, and feel free to go ahead and respond in the Q&A function in the Zoom meeting as well, and I'll be sure to monitor that.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Scott. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Can you all see it?
Yep, we can see it.
Awesome. So for the first use case that we're going to walk through, as Scott mentioned, is the sales dashboard. And pretty much for this dashboard, we like to track our high-level KPI information directly out of Salesforce. So here's a snapshot of what that data looks like behind the scenes. So we have the opportunity name, the account name, the amount for the opportunity, when it was created, when it was closed, the quarter that it's associated with, And then we have additional information in terms of the lead source, the type of business, information about the client themselves, and then what stage the opportunity is in. And this is really important, as the goal of this dashboard is to not only just track the deals that we have closed, but also the deals that are in our pipeline. So we took this data set, which you can also export from Salesforce, and we created our executive summary sales dashboard. So here is a workbook that contains all of the key dashboards that we look at to support our business, right? So we have the opportunities in sales, we have the time tracking that Scott went over, as well as our conversions, which he titled as marketing. So within our opportunity and sales dashboard, we have two dashboards at a high level. The first one is our executive summary one. At a high level, you can see exactly how many deals were closed, how many were closed, and the revenue behind it. We can also see the amount of revenue that the potential revenue that's in our pipeline. We can see how much to a quota that we are, the percentage of the deals that were closed that we have in our pipeline, and then what is our average deal size, right? So we see that our average deal that we close about 155K. Now, in terms of our sales funnel, we can start to look at, all right, what's in the qualification stage? So right now, 29% of our opportunities are still within the qualification stage, and we can see exactly how much potential revenue are associated with those deals. Then we can see what's in progress, what's in the proposal stage, and then we have the percentage of percent of total of what's closed or won. Then to the right, we have our sales progress. So this view is broken out by team leaders or high level sales reps. So we see the percentage that they've won, and then how close are they to their quota. So in this example, Kyle Sullivan is obviously closest to his quota than everyone else within the organization. In the bottom left-hand corner, we have a breakout of our opportunities. So deals that are not considered closed won, we have a breakout of the opportunities for those. So we have the qualification stage, and we're listing the top 5 for each. So based off of revenue, what deals are currently in the qualification stage and how much are they worth? We can then scroll down and see what's in our in progress stage. We can scroll and see what's in proposal. And as you can see, we don't have closed won here because obviously closed won are the clients that we have. So we really want to just focus on what is currently in the pipeline and who are some of these clients that are going to bring in potential revenue. And then to the right, we have a breakout of the top closed accounts. So of the accounts that sit within this last piece of the funnel, how many of them were closed, or what was the revenue for each of those accounts? Awesome. So in addition to, just looking at this snapshot, you can also look at historical information. So we can go in and expand the filter. And right now we're just focusing on Q2 of 2020, but we do have the ability to go back and focus on prior quarters. So this is a really good dashboard to just provide high-level information in terms of where's the company at in terms of opportunities and sales. Now, if we want to look at our sales reps, we can select the sales reps tab on the left-hand side. And now the dashboard filters to show a breakout by sales rep. So in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the percentage to goal for each sales rep, right? So we have Kyle at the top, followed by Sean, followed by Arjun. And this is ordered by percentage to goal. So we can see that Kyle obviously is the closest to his goal, just like in the previous dashboard on the executive summary. Now, we can either click on a particular sales rep, or the default view is just going to highlight, as the company as a whole. But here, I'm going to go ahead and click on Kyle. And when I select Kyle, the entire dashboard now filters to provide detailed information about the opportunities that Kyle has focused on. So as we can see, Kyle is 58% to his goal. That is the equivalent of 0.45 million revenue that he brought in, but that's 13 deals that were won. 20% of the deals were closed that Kyle worked on, and 37 of them are currently in the pipeline. Now in the top left corner, we have a breakout of what are the top deals that Kyle closed, right? What are the top opportunities that are still in the pipeline for Kyle? What's Kyle's funnel look like? So what's in the qualification stage, what's in progress, what's in proposal, what was won and what was lost. So as we can see here, the majority of Kyle's sales are currently sitting in the qualification stage. And then where do Kyle's clients sit at? What are those locations for the deals that we have won? So you can see here, if you hover over it, exactly the city and the state that all of the clients are in. And you can do this for individual sales reps. So we can go ahead and filter to Sean, we can filter to Arjun, and it'll show you the breakdown for every single sales reps. So this is our opportunities and sales dashboard, which really just provides information on our company as a whole and some of the key metrics that we are reporting on, and then how are the sales rep within the company doing. So now I'll navigate and show you the data behind the time tracking one. I think this is it. Yep, it's the raw data. So when a opportunity is closed, that is pretty much a new project for us to work on, right? So once an opportunity is closed, we assign consultants to those projects to work on. So here's the Salesforce data for all of the clients that we had closed opportunities for. So we have the client name, the Salesforce account ID, the opportunity name itself, the Salesforce opportunity ID, the stage, and everything here is closed won. We have the close date and the amount for that particular opportunity, right? So as you can see, we have multiple clients who come back to us for several opportunities. So we have a breakout of the amount per opportunity. So this is our Salesforce data. And then in tracking time, we are tracking every single consultant who has been placed on a project. So every day, the consultants go ahead and enter in their hours into tracking time. And then when you enter in your hours, you are associating that with a particular task or a particular project, right? So if I go to the mapping document, what you'll see here is the client name, again, the tracking time ID that it's listed in within tracking time, the Salesforce account ID, the opportunity name, the Salesforce opportunity ID, as well as the tracking time ID. And this is where we use Tableau Prep to kind of put all of this information together. So the goal here is that we want to take our tracking time export as well as our Salesforce export and put those together in order to get a clear understanding of, at the end of the month, how are we billing, right? And even prior to the end of the month, how are we tracking towards the hours that we have set for a particular project? It definitely helps in terms of us forecasting how we're going to perform for this month or how we're going to perform for this year, and maybe even which team members are overutilized or which ones are underutilized. So in Tableau Prep, we brought in those 3 tabs that I just showed you all: the Salesforce data, the tracking time data, and then our mapping document. Here, we're just filtering out certain clients that we don't want to focus on. Then we're joining that data together. So we're joining together the tracking time data as well as the mapping document. And then once that is joined, we're joining the output of that to our Salesforce data. And here, we're just removing certain fields that we don't need in our final output. And our final output looks like this. Here we have our client name, the consultant who worked on that project, the date of entry. So as I mentioned before, every day the consultants go into tracking time and they track a particular project or a particular task on that project. We have the time of entry, the task that they tracked to, the hours that they tracked. Everything in stage is still closed won because these are all projects that we are now actively working on. The rate, so we just have a standard rate here. The contract amount for this particular project. And then we have some key identifying information in terms of the Salesforce account, the Salesforce account ID, the tracking time account ID, the opportunity name, the Salesforce number, just some key primary information here. So we took this data, and within Tableau, we created our time tracking dashboard, right? And I like to call it our billing scorecard. So to date, we can see exactly within this particular month, how much revenue have we generated so far? How many hours have we billed? And how many projects are we currently billing on? On the left-hand side, we have a high-level overview of who are our clients that are generating the highest revenue. Maybe you want to send them a thank you email. Maybe you want to follow up with them and just actively support these clients. And then we also have information on deals that were recently closed and we may be looking to place consultants on, right? So some of these may be really big opportunities and we want to make sure that we have enough people to be placed on those projects. So you have your highest revenues and your recently closed opportunities. Now, by default, everything in terms of the task, the team, and the project is shown at the amount level, but we can go ahead and change this to show per hour or for utilization. So here we have how much revenue was generated for each task. So typically when a client comes to us, they have certain tasks that they would like executed. They want a dashboard to be designed. They want us to manage a project for them. They want training from us. So those are the tasks that are associated with a particular client. So as you can see here, development work, so Tableau dashboard development is the one that is generating the highest revenue. Down below, we then have a breakout per team. So within our organization, we break out our consultants into certain teams. I'm head of the data visualization team, and then we have other vice presidents who are head of the data analytics team, data infrastructure team, the data science team, and then we have a customer support team. So now we're looking at here in terms of revenue, which team is generating the most revenue to date for this particular month. And then on the right-hand side, we have a breakout per project, all right? So what are the highest revenue generating projects that we're working on? As you can see, we have two projects for the same client. So these two projects are generating the most revenue month to date, their engineering project as well as their accounting project for this one particular client. Now I can go ahead and switch this over to the hours view, right? So if we want to see exactly how many hours we have for a particular task, how many hours are we tracking for a particular time, we can go ahead and do that. And this is really useful, especially when we start to talk about utilization, right? So typically, you would want your consultants to be utilized at a certain percentage. So you want to bill at a certain percentage. Some organizations, you may want to make sure that your consultants are 80% billable or 75% billable. But either way, utilization is basically just taking however many hours you are expecting your consultants to bill on work, and then you're looking at how many hours have they billed so far, and you're calculating what is their current utilization. So as we can see here, the training team has the highest utilization. And excuse me, the training task has the highest utilization. The data visualization team has the highest utilization. However, the data analytics team is only at 44%. So maybe we have a project that's in the pipeline and we can start to dive into this data a little bit and see, are there individuals on the data analytics team that could maybe help out on the data visualization team, seeing that, you know, the data analytics team is currently a little bit underutilized right now. And then on the right-hand side, we have the breakout of utilization per project, right? So which ones are we billing the most hours to? Which ones are we the most utilized on? And you can scroll down and see which ones are the least utilized on. So that is dashboard number 2, our time tracking dashboard. As I mentioned, we're taking our Salesforce data with our tracking time data, we're bringing it together to start to understand where we're at as a company today, how much are we billing for this particular month, what projects are the highest, right, in terms of revenue, in terms of hours, and several things like that. And then I'll go ahead and transition it to our last one. So on a monthly basis, we hold webinars, right? So the webinar that you all are on today, we hold these on a recurring basis. So we try to do them at least once a month. Sometimes we're able to squeeze in 2 for a particular month. But basically what we want to do is we want to make sure that, you know, we are converting some of the individuals who come to our webinars. So what we do is we take our Salesforce data, right? And then we also export our webinar data. So whenever you all register for webinar, you all know that that data is provided to the organization that is hosting that webinar. So there are typical forms that you all sign out when you're registering for an event, such as your name, your email, how did you hear about us, the department that you worked for, and then we have information about the webinar itself. So here on our end, we know we have the webinar ID, we have whether or not a special guest presented on it, so whether we brought somebody in from an external partner to maybe talk during that webinar. Then we have the webinar name, we have the webinar date. And then in terms of conversions, basically, once a person follows up with us from a webinar, we enter in that information into Salesforce as a lead. And then they go through the cycle, they become a qualified lead, we send them a proposal. And the point that we close the deal with someone who has attended our webinar, we consider that a conversion, right? So we have a flag here that lets us know who's converted that has attended our webinars previously and who has not. And then we have information about the conversion itself. So how many days did it take between the webinar and the conversion for this person to convert or to close the deal, right? So we can start to see on average, once we host a webinar, when can we start to see like some revenue or some deals being closed from that particular webinar. So we took this data and we placed it into our workbook. And here we have our conversions tab, right? So at a high level, we can see how many webinars we've hosted in the past few months. And we're looking at all of 2019 and all of 2020 right now. So we've hosted 113 webinars, which is about 7 per month. We can see exactly how many attendees we had, which is about 292 per webinar. And then we can see exactly how many individuals from 2019 to 2020 have come in as a client to Lovelytics, right? So how many did we convert? So we've converted about 4,000 clients, which leads to about a 12.5 per conversion rate. So on average, we are converting about 36 attendees from a particular webinar. And we can see exactly how much revenue we have generated from conversions. Now, down below, we have the conversions per week. So as you can see, maybe our webinars are getting better and better, and we're starting to get, more and more clients from them. So this is a weekly count of how many conversions we've had that week. And then we can change this to a monthly view, and we can see, obviously, since we've started, these webinars a few years ago or last year, that it's been uphill from them. So it kind of just gives you a good feeling to know that some of your webinars are paying off. Then on the right-hand side, we have a conversion time frame, and we created what I call conversion buckets. So how long did it take for a person or an attendee to come in as a client to Lovelytics? So we have our 0 to 30 days, 30 to 60 days, 60 to 90, 3 to 6 months, 6 months to a year, and then we have anything greater than a year. So typically, we are seeing attendees come in as clients either 3 to 6 months, which is second highest, but mostly 6 months to a year. And that's when you can start to get into a little bit of forecasting. You can say, okay, we can maybe expect about from each webinar that we hold within 6 months, we can expect X amount of revenue, to be generated within 6 months to a year for our company. Then down below that, we have the conversions per webinar. So right now we're looking at the top 5, and you can hover over it and see exactly when we had this webinar, the topic for it, the number of attendees, and how many people were conversions for it. So these are webinars where everyone who attended this webinar ended up being turning into a client later on down the line. And then on the right-hand side, we have the breakout by business unit. So when you are registering for an event, and we get that information on what department you support or what business unit you support, we can see exactly where our attendees work at, like in terms of business units. So we can see here that the majority of our attendees work within the legal business unit. Then we have R&D, training, followed by business development, and last but not least, accounting. And then just to cap it off on the left-hand side, we just have some overview information about webinars that are to come and how many people are registered for those. And then we have previous webinars that we hosted. So webinar name, and then this is the last 5 webinars, how many attendees we had and how many conversions we've had to date. So you can see that on the webinar that was from 427, we've already had 3 conversions, right? So that's pretty good. And then we know that sometimes folks love to see this data in a tabular format. They love to just export it. We like to share it with our sales teams as well. So here we've included, that export buttons where they can have this nice view of all of the webinars, the the dates, whether or not there was a guest presenter, how many attendees we've had, how many conversions, and then the revenue to date for it. So someone can go ahead and export that out. So just to recap, I know I spoke, about three different dashboards. Just to really recap here, this workbook or this package is really useful for us as an organization to track three things, right? Our sales, our work that we're doing internally, so our billing, and then our marketing. And we use webinars as our main form of marketing. So with our sales, we can track our top KPIs. We can track information by our sales teams and our sales reps and see how they're doing in terms of the quota. In terms of our consultants who are actually working on these projects, once the sales reps goes ahead and turns that over into a closed deal, we can now track exactly the hours that we're spending on those projects. We can track who are our highest paying clients. We can track what was recently closed. We can look at the amount of hours, the amount of money that we currently have towards these projects, the hours that we're working on them, and utilization, so that we can get a better sense of, all right, so for some of these recently closed deals, where can we start to plug people? Where are some teams that are underutilized, who can really focus on these upcoming projects? And then last but not least, we have our marketing or our conversion. So for these webinars that we're hosting, that we're marketing to you all for who's converting, right? When are they converting? How much money are we getting from that? We just want to make sure that our efforts are paying off and things like that. So that is all that I have. Scott, I will turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Chantilly. I think feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A. I believe there's only one question on my side so far, which is to you, Chantilly. Can you explain how you added the amount, hours, and utilization buttons on the billing scorecard dashboard?
Yeah, for sure. So if I share my screen, on the time tracking. So these buttons are parameters. So what I did was I pretty much brought in a worksheet that just has a column that says, I'll show you what it looks like, a column that says display, a column that says value. And then I use the parameter action within Tableau to basically say when a user selects this value, pass that value through this parameter that's here.
Fantastic.
So using parameter actions, you can achieve that as well.
And Ryan has a question. Are you limiting the tabs, opportunities in sales, time tracking, conversions based upon the users? Is it based on user access, or can any person that was to visit the dashboard be able to view everything on it?
So when we publish this to our server internally, we pretty much just publish based off of user permissions or group permissions. So if you are one of the leaders in the organization, you have access to this information. So it's not too detailed in terms of security, but of course we can incorporate that if we wanted to.
Fantastic. Well, we will be posting the recording of this webinar on Chantilly's blog, and she'll be tweeting that out shortly. So we'll be sure to share it that way. And if you got any questions, you'll feel free to reach out to either of us. I will put our contact information up here on the screen in a second in case anyone has any questions. There's my email and phone number, and Chantilly's email there as well.
And I'll also add to that look for us to have an actual design webinar around this. So we really just wanted to use this to give you all a demo of how we use Salesforce and Tableau together. So really dive deeper into like the data part of it and the process. But we will be hosting a webinar around the actual design of it. So I know a lot of folks have questions on like those buttons, or how did I do the background or navigation and stuff like that. So that will be a webinar that we are hosting in the weeks to come. And if you attended today, if you registered and you're watching this recording, you'll see an email from us on when that next webinar will be.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everybody for attending, and have a good rest of the day.
Awesome.